What's going on, Legionnaires, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, and make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content we have coming out. Now, we're going to be diving into some Wolverine issue number 11 for this video. Now, I'm really excited about this issue because this issue, we're seeing more of Omega Red, but we're also seeing some individuals that we didn't think we were going to see in this. Now, if you haven't been keeping up with Wolverine, if you haven't been keeping up with the X-Men line as a whole, go ahead and check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It's going to get you completely caught up on everything that's been going on in this line. Now, this is written by Benjamin Piercy, art is by Scott Eaton, and cover is by Adam Kubert. Now, with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright, so this one picks us up and we're traveling a little bit. We're outside Minneapolis one night, Chicago the next, Detroit another, Minneapolis, all over the place. Always at night, always under the bright moon. And what Wolverine has been tracking has been something very dangerous. Something that has been filling bodies, storing them away, and sending them off, dumping them into the streets. Converting humans into vampires and releasing them on the populace. Now, Wolverine, he's been dealing with population control up to this point, and the vampires that remain have either fled to the suburbs or the outlying farms. But he always picks up the blood trail, and he's been sniffing down these bloodsuckers for quite some time. And now the Reaper has come to reap, and we see Wolverine just laying waste to some vampires. Some of these vampires, they try to maintain their humanity by eating rats, dogs, cows, all that stuff. But there's other ones. The ones that only see red. They have lost all of their humanity. Because at the end of the day, after losing that humanity, there's one thing they want, and that's power. Because that's what humans want. That's why we fantasize about vampires and things of that nature, because we crave the power, the ability to have that kind of strength. And right now, that greed is spreading. The vampire nation is growing. And somehow, Wolverine is a part of their plan, and so is Omega Red. And this is when we're taken to Krakoa, and we see Omega Red. And he's walking through Krakoa's woods, looking like a Sasquatch almost, like Bigfoot. Now, this is where we see him dig into the ground, but before he's able to do whatever it is he's doing, which it seems like he's planting a portal, he sees some kids off to the side and grabs them up real quick. And these kids, they're just being kids. They were whispering about him like he's a haunted house, like he's something to be feared. And all the kids run. They're just like, run from the monster. And Omega Red's just like, I'm not a monster. But he is. Now, this is where we see Wolverine, Beast, and Sage. And they've been tracking exactly what Omega Red is doing. Now, right now, he's over the airspace in Chernobyl. And they don't really know what he's up to at this point, but they're going to continue to track him and see what he's doing. And as Omega Red makes his way down to the ground, on Chernobyl, this is where he's met with vampires eating, and they're all sitting here chowing down on this deer. And it kind of makes sense. The mutants have their own island. Now the vampire nation has their own little island. A place away where no one else is going to go because it's freaking Chernobyl. Now, Omega Red, he tells the vampires, like, I'm here to see Dracula. I want to see Dracula. And at first, the vampires, they're like, listen, you can't just come up on our island and expect to see our king. And then all the vampires attack him. But Omega Red makes quick work of these guys, throwing them left and right like they're just beanbags. And this is when Dracula comes floating out of the sky. And he tells Omega Red, like, just forgive them. If Chernobyl's a throne, these are the peasants begging at the gates. And this is where Dracula makes sure that Xavier isn't tapping into his head. Now, the thing about all of this is Omega Red was resurrected without any memory of what transpired in the interrogation chamber. So as far as he knows, nothing has changed, and thus Dracula isn't going to know anything either. And this is where we see a kind of glimpse at the vampire nation. And Dracula's telling him, this all runs off of blood, off of Wolverine's blood. But Omega Red tells him, he can't keep doing this. The mutants all fear him, despise him, and they're even suspecting him at this point. But Dracula tells him, just earn their trust by offering them something. Something like Russia. Now, this is when we're taken to Paris. And Wolverine is sitting here on a bench, waiting up for somebody. Waiting for somebody to arrive. And that somebody is Louise. Now, Louise, she's a vampire hunter. She's a member of the Night Guard. Now, these guys are stationed in every major city in Europe. But once a year, all the vampire hunters, they come together for a gathering. But their guiding priest, Father Cole, he betrayed all of them, and the vampires came descending upon them. Now, she's not sure how many made them out alive, but before they can finish this conversation, an old lady comes walking past them, and she falls down on the ground, and she cuts her hand. And with this cut, Louis smells it, and we see the fangs pop out, and she is a freaking vampire. When they were attacked, she had been turned. And this is when Wolverine pulls her off to the side, and he's about to gut her. Like, he pulls out his claws and everything. And she tells him, like, hold on. Like, I'm not one of them yet. Like, I'm fighting it off the best I can with some garlic and holy water. But the end is inevitable. And Wolverine kind of backs off. You know, he knows what it's like to not be in control. And he hugs her and embraces her. And she asks, you know, if they were able to take down the Knight's Guard, where else are they? And this is when we take over to Oxford University. And we're seeing Dr. Boggs, you know, just closing up for the night. But there's a bat outside of his window, and he lets it in. And this bat is obviously Dracula. And Dracula is telling him that he's not doing good enough. Because right now, they're using Wolverine's blood. He's been infecting candidates and using that dosing with beta versions of Wolverine's blood, and then exposing them to sunlight, garlic, holy water, and the results have been mixed. But right now, they're using nursing home rejects, addicts, the homeless, not prime experimentation candidates. And he tells them to find superior ones. And this is when Dr. Boggs' little intern comes back into the room, and Dracula grabs him and bites him and tells him to use him as his next experiment. And what they're trying to do here is make themselves be able to walk in the daylight, to make them super strong. And by doing that, Wolverine's blood is the key because of his healing properties. Because of vampires' healing properties, mixing all of that together, you have a vampire that can continuously heal out in the sunlight. But the biggest issue right now is that they don't have Wolverine. They're getting small samples of his blood here and there when they get the opportunity, but they need to be able to literally drain Wolverine of all his blood and be able to use that to really make this experimentation work. Now we see Beast and Sage, and they're watching everything go on, and this is when Omega Red comes into the room, and he tells them, like, there's something I need to tell you guys. And back in Paris, we see Louise eating off of Wolverine, and one of the Knight's Guard sitting up top one of the buildings, watching all of this transpire. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. You know, I think it's a lot of fun. We're seeing, I like seeing Omega Red in comics, no matter what it is. And seeing him, you know, doing everything he's doing, having the Dracula and Vampire Nation all coming together, really trying to become something, and using Wolverine to do that. They're trying to become their own nation. They're trying to become exactly like Krakoa is. You know, Krakoa, through force and might, etched out their own piece of the world and said, this is ours and no one else can come here. And the Vampire Nation wants to do the same thing with Chernobyl. They want to create their own nation. The only issue is vampires have an undying thirst for blood, which can be very dangerous if they end up having their own nation and own population and so on and so forth. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you have not yet, please do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and until the next breakdown.